Hello everyone, today we'll be seeing how fast Mandibuzz can beat Pokemon Black in a solo run challenge. Let's get straight into the video. In the previous video, we played Braviary in Pokemon Black and that thing was an absolute beast of a Pokemon. However, I can guarantee you Mandibuzz is going to be nowhere close to a beast. If we take a look at this thing's stats, we have 110 HP, 65 attack, 105 defense, 55 special attack, 95 special defense, and 80 speed. We are also in the slow level up group, just like Braviary was. The main difference though is Mandibuzz is the more defensive of the two, while Braviary is the offensive one. And defensive Pokemon always play worse, with some exceptions, than purely offensive Pokemon. But, however, maybe our good starting moveset can make up for it, right? We start off with the moves Gust, Leer, Fury Attack, and Pluck. So yeah, honestly, pretty decent starting moves. Pluck being 60 base power is sort of like starting with Wing Attack, plus we can steal the opponent's Held Berry. Although no gym leader in this game even has a Held Berry. The only trainer in this game that uses held items to my knowledge is the Charon rival battles. So at least on those fights we can steal his Oran Berries or something. Plus throughout the levels, we get Nasty Plot at level 14, which is an extremely good setup move. The problem though, we don't learn too many special attacks. And then throughout the levels, we get Feint Attack at 23, and then all the way at level 41 and 46, we get Air Slash and Dark Pulse. Those will be our two special moves that we're going to want Nasty Plot for. So Nasty Plot for quite a while is going to be completely useless to us. And things aren't really looking too good via TM. We do get a couple of really good moves though. We actually do get the TM for Shadow Ball, which is located in the Relic Castle. We're going to have to wait until after we defeat the 7th gym in order to get it though, so that's going to be quite a ways away. And funnily enough, for some reason, this thing learns TM59 Incinerate, a fire type move. We can get this move inside the cold storage. I don't know if it's going to be useful though, but at least it's good to know we have it just in case. And then other than that, we get the usual stereotypical moves like Aerial Ace, Return, stuff that a normal flying type would learn. Anyway, here's the thing though. Even though Mandibuzz's moveset is a lot worse than Braviary's, the early game of Black and White is still going to play out relatively the same as most other Pokemon. Just defeat the optional trainers on the first couple of routes, and then we can head our way to Striaton City and take on the first gym leader, Chili. He leads off with Lillipup. I use Pluck and it's sadly going to be a 3-shot, and that does allow him to use a potion, but fortunately his Lillipup isn't able to do too much. Then on the Pansear, I just keep spamming Pluck and I end up getting a 3-hit on it. So yeah, already we're off to a way worse start because Braviary was able to 2-shot them, while Mandibuzz has to 3-shot them, which is honestly expected because having 65 attack is quite horrible. I defeat the Team Plasma Grunts in the Dream Yard, and then I go ahead and get this Great Ball here and this Ultra Ball in the sand for my HM users. I also did grab a Dusk Ball inside Striaton City. There's a guy who just gives you one, and I'm going to use these 3 Pokeballs to catch my HM users later. And then I defeat the Charon battle right here and then enter the Wellspring Cave. Once Team Plasma is cleared, I go ahead and catch my Woobat and Roggenrola for Fly and Strength later. And then I can head on down here, and as I head my way to Nacrene, I want to show something. If you head inside the dark grass here, you can actually pick up the rare candy for this route. This is actually a glitch. The rare candy for this route, you actually need Surf to get it. So how was I able to get it? The script for picking up the rare candy actually exists at 2 different spots on this route. One in the actual spot you're meant to get it, and the other one right here. Once I get this rare candy right here in the grass, this thing picks up the 1 rare candy, so if I try to surf across the water later, the actual rare candy will be gone. So it's kind of like the rare candy teleported to me. It's actually super funny of a glitch. I'm pretty much going to start doing that every single run from now on. Plus, going through the dark grass will allow me to skip this one spinner right here, this little schoolgirl. So that's just going to be really convenient and quite hilarious. And now I can head my way to Nakarine City and just continue heading west towards the Pinwheel Forest. I am not ready to take on Lenora yet because my moveset is still absolutely horrible. I would like it if we got Feint Attack at level 23, but Pluck is just going to have to be our best damaging move. However though, I still need to get plenty more experience. So I fight a lot of the trainers towards the entrance of Pinwheel Forest. I can't go in there until I defeat Lenora. So I defeat the other trainers heading south, and then I go up here and fight a few black belts here. And then with all these trainers defeated, I can defeat N in front of the museum and go take on the second gym leader, Lenora. Lenora leads off with her Herdier, and I send out my Mandibuzz. It does activate Intimidate, so right away I use a Nasty Plot. My only special move is Gust, so I'm going to have to use Nasty Plot with Gust. So I one-shot the Herdier, and unfortunately I'm going to have to two-shot the Watchog because Gust is still a very bad move. And even though we have Nasty Plot, having only 55 special attack is going to be quite bad. Also, as we go through the Pinwheel Forest and take on the Team Plasma Grunts, I just realized I never went over my ability. Braviary went with its hidden ability Defiant, however, this thing's hidden ability is Weak Armor. It means if I'm below half HP, my defense goes down. So, yeah, that is extremely bad. So I just went with my normal ability, which is Big Pecs. Big Pecs basically prevents my defense from being lowered. Not really a good stat to try and protect because our defense is already pretty decent. So, yeah, it's quite unfortunate, but Weak Armor is just an extremely bad ability. However, though, remember how Braviary had to struggle with Elisa as the 4th gym leader? This thing is going to be a lot worse. In fact, when Axew was routing this run for me, he told me he was extremely worried about Elisa because we're going to need a lot of luck and a lot of training for her. However, we don't need to worry about that right now. I enter Castalia City, and then I enter the Battle Company to take on a lot of the trainer battles that are here for extra training. And then while I'm in the city, I do also end up getting the TM for Rest for later. I don't end up getting a tract because I don't need it for this playthrough. And once the trainers in the Battle Company are defeated, I can do some more Team Plasma stuff and then go take on the 3rd gym leader, Berg. Berg leads off with his Whirlipede. Even though Mandibuzz's stats are a lot worse than Braviary's, this thing is still going to be easy just because Bug is weak to flying. However though, I do get hit with Poison Point, so I need to be careful at this fight. Although I do get dangerously low, I get to the Levani at 2 hit points remaining, I use Gust, and I actually one-shot because that thing is 4 times weak to flying, and at 2 HP remaining while poisoned, I defeat Berg. So, the fact that the Bug Gym was close for a flying type, yeah, this thing's not doing too good. And remember, Elisa's coming up. She's going to be downright horrible. So horrible, in fact, I actually do all the trainers before the mandatory Charon fight on Route 4, including these fishermen. I never fight these fishermen, but I just need to be prepared. With Charon defeated, I defeat the rest of the trainers on Route 4, and then in Nimbasa City, I head east towards Route 16, defeat all those trainers as well, and desperate times call for desperate measures. I even head west towards Route 5, which I never do, and I defeat all the trainers this way as well. I even end up finding a free zinc, so that's nice. And then I can ride the Ferris wheel, defeat N, and I guess there's not much else I can do. Let's go take on the 4th gym leader, Elisa. And just before I take on Elisa, I end up going back to Castalia City because I just realized I actually forgot to get the TM for Rest by mistake when I said I did. Oops. And then when I got it, I head on up to the Desert Resort here. I defeat most of the trainers, and then there's actually a TM here that I want for Elisa's Emolgas. It's actually going to be the TM for Rock Tomb. Even though Rock Tomb is a horrible move at 50 power, 80 accuracy, hopefully it being a rock move is going to one-shot the Emolgas, plus Rock Tomb doesn't make contact, so it should not activate static. Also, just before I leave the resort here, right here, Shadow Stitch told me this as I was playing this game live in my Discord server. I often record playthroughs in my Discord. He told me the black glasses were here, so I went ahead and got them, although I don't think I end up really using these that much. So just before I fight Elisa, I go ahead and teach Rock Tomb as well as the move Rest. So now, let's go take on Elisa. Oh boy. She leads off with her Emolga. I'm level 34. Rock Tomb unfortunately doesn't one-shot, but she just wastes her time using Volt Switch. Unfortunately, Volt Switch doesn't paralyze. And then on the Emolga, I use Payback. She uses a Hyper Potion, and Payback actually one-shots her because Payback has double the base power if you went second, and her using a Hyper Potion allowed her to go first, which made Payback do double the damage. So that was actually quite hilarious. I had no idea the opponent using a healing item would count as you moving second. I mean, it makes sense, but anyway, throughout that whole explanation, Zebstrika ends up giving me a reset, and I was so close to knocking her out. I'm sure I can get this on the second try. On the second try though, I make it back to the Zebstrika, and I'm just spamming Rest because I'm trying to PP stall out her uses of electric moves, although it doesn't really end up working too well. So once I eventually wake up, I just need to go for the attack. So I go ahead and use Payback, defeat her Zebstrika, and I end up defeating Elisa on my second try. That may look easy, but you gotta remember, I was preparing for that fight. Axio and Shadow both told me that this fight was going to be an absolute nightmare if I didn't prepare. So that's exactly what I did. I crossed the Driftfell City Bridge, enter the Farmer's Market, get the Expert Belt, and then in the cold storage area here, this trash can actually has a PP up, and then if I go in through the grass here, I can pick up this ether, and I randomly picked up a dive ball I didn't know existed, and then this item right here is a protein. I go ahead and use this for extra attack. Gen 5 doesn't really have Vitamin of the Days segments because you don't end up buying vitamins until Shopping Mall 9, which is literally before the final gym leader, or in Black 2 White 2 before the 7th gym, and by that point most Pokemon don't need vitamins. So yeah, sadly there's going to be no Vitamin of the Day. But in our hearts, we all know that one protein was the Vitamin of the Day. So now I can defeat the Team Plasma Grunts in the cold storage, and now I can take on the 5th gym leader, Clay. He leads off with a Krokorok. He can be a pain if he uses either Swagger or Torment, but in some runs, him using Swagger can actually be a benefit. Theoretically, I could get a Person Berry from either a Pokemon Ranger or from the guy in the Castalia Art Museum who will give you a berry if you show him a random type of Pokemon once per day. But anyway, that's not here or there. On the Krokorok, I use Rock Smash. It's in red health. It uses Swagger on me. I don't hit myself in confusion, and then I one-shot the Krokorok. Alright, now for the Escadrille. Will Rock Smash one-shot it? It unfortunately does not, but he wastes his one turn setting up a Hone Claws. So now with Escadrille defeated, I can just one-shot the Palpitoad with Return, and Clay is done. Nice. The Bianca fight outside of Driftfell comes surprisingly close to actually knocking me out. Her Musharna puts me to sleep with Hypnosis, and I end up defeating her at around 40 HP remaining, so she actually came kinda close to finishing me, but fortunately I'm okay. I use this house right here to heal up before going into Chargestone Cave, get myself the Lucky Egg, defeat all the Team Plasma Grunts, as well as the end battle at the very end. I don't get the rare candy here because the rare candy in the basement floor of the Chargestone Cave is blocked off by 2 Ace Trainer Spinners, and I would prefer to skip that rare candy if I can, just so I don't have to fight those trainers. So now I can leave the cave, head towards the Celestial Tower, ring the bell, and now I can go take on the 6th gym leader, Skyla. Skyla is honestly one of the worst gym leaders in Pokemon Black and White. Her whole team and moveset is just quite bad. She leads off with her Swoobat. I go ahead and use a turn 1 Nasty Plot, as she uses an Amnesia followed by Acrobatics. I go ahead and just set up to full. I actually have Air Slash on my moveset now, which I learned at level 41, and since Air Slash is a special move, I can use this in combination with Nasty Plot, and then I can defeat Skyla's entire team. Then, right afterwards, inside Twist Mountain, I get myself the rare candy as well as the TM for Substitute, which will definitely come in handy later into the playthrough. And then, inside of Icarus City, I need to go take on the Lost Actor. The Lost Actor here uses Ice types, but his whole team in general is just very, very bad. But I actually want to show off a neat little trick here. If you actually look at this boulder right here, this boulder and the one right above it do not have hitboxes programmed onto them. It's like they put the sprite there but just didn't put down the hitboxes. So you can actually use this neat little overworld glitch to actually skip one of the spinners. Or not really a spinner, he's technically supposed to be a mandatory trainer, but with this glitch, he is not mandatory at all. I do think this was fixed in the sequels though, but it's not like you go here in Black and 2 and White 2. This is a post-game area in that game. Anyway, let's go take on the Lost Actor. Bryson leads off with his Vanillish. I go ahead and use a turn 1 Nasty Plot right away, as he uses not 1 Acid Armor, not 2, but 3 Acid Armors, and then I just one-shot it, the Beartic, and then I one-shot the Vanillish with Air Slash. The Beartic surprisingly lives, even though I used 3 Nasty Plots, which is kind of surprising. And then on the Cryogonal, I use Dark Pulse, and I deliver the one-shot. Okay, yep, the Lost Actor being the Lost Actor. He could have theoretically just spammed Ice Beam or something on me, but he just set up his defense. Like, what's wrong with that guy? Anyway, once I have 7 gym badges, I have to do a bunch of Team Plasma fights in the Dragon Spiral Tower and inside of the Relic Castle. And then I finish off the Relic Castle section, get the Light Stone, defeat Bianca before the Tube Line Bridge, make my way to Opelucid City, and go take on the final gym leader of Black and White, Drayden. Drayden leads off with his level 41 Fracture. I go ahead right away like usual, set up 1, 2 Nasty Plots, and then I use Air Slash to one-shot it, then I one-shot the Drudigan, and will I one-shot the Haxorus at level 55? Yes I do, his whole team is a series of one-shots. Alright, we are nearing the end of the game. You may think these Black and White videos are going a lot quicker than normal. Pokemon Black and White are much shorter games than most other games I solo run, and there isn't really too much to talk about in these runs, just because half the game is just fighting Team Plasma Grunts. Do you really want me to keep saying each Team Plasma fight over and over again? Just keep on talking about these bad fights? Plus, this game is one of the most linear Pokemon games probably in the entire series. You literally go in a straight line from town to the next town, to the next town, to the next town, fight a gym at each one of them. You don't end up using Fly mandatorily until after the 7th gym, and you get Fly after the 5th gym. That's just one of the things I don't like about this game. Don't get me wrong, Gen 5 is my favorite generation, but one of the problems with the original games is just how linear it is. Like, there's hardly any backtracking besides doing a bunch of Team Plasma fights. I'm just not the biggest fan of it, but it does make making these videos a lot easier. Anyway, I catch my 2 Funguses to fill up my parties so that way Reshiram does not get put into slot 1 before the end fight. And then I defeat Charon, enter Victory Road, and I end up at the Pokemon League. I heal at the center here, buy some full restores, and now we can go take on the final supposed 5 trainers. Let's do this shit. Since this is Pokemon Black and White, I can fight the Elite Four in any order I want, and I start off with the Fighting type Elite Four member Marshall. He leads off with a throw, which is going to want to use Stone Edge on me right away. However though, I start off by using Attract on it. I got the TM for Attract in Castelia City, and since Mandibuzz can only be female, I can go ahead and infatuate the throw, so that way it's not going to use Stone Edge on me. I can set up 1 or 2 nasty plots, and then just defeat his entire team with Air Slash. Fortunately though, even though the Sock survives because of Sturdy, he doesn't end up doing much damage to me. So now, with Marshall defeated, I can go take on the Ghost-type Elite Four member, Chantal. This fight is normally quite easy if you have Substitute to block Will-O-Wisp. However, 1, it doesn't even matter because I'm using special moves, and 2, I forgot that at the time. I tried to use Attract on Cofagrigus, but Mandibuzz just ain't into that stuff. It fails, I get burned, and yeah, I get a reset all because of extreme stupidity. On the next attempt, I don't bother using Attract on her female Cofagrigus, and I defeat her team even though I was burned. So now, let's go take on the Psychic Elite Four member, Caitlyn. Flying types need to be very careful around Caitlyn because her Reuniqueless has Thunder. So right away on it, I used 1 Dark Pulse. Fortunately, she actually missed Thunder, and now that she missed 1 Thunder, her whole team is going to be a series of one-shots with Dark Pulse. So yeah, that was easy. Alright, last up we have the Dark-type Elite Four member, Grimsley. Before this fight here, I do end up teaching Substitute in the place of Attract, mainly to block Sand Attack. And with Sand Attack blocked, I can set up for free with Nasty Plot, and then defeat his whole team with a series of Air Slashes and Dark Pulses. However though, we still have 2 more trainers to fight, N and Getsus. Just before N, I catch the Reshiram, send it to my PC, and now, we got 2 fights to go. Let's start off with the final battle with N. N leads off with his level 52 Zekrom. His AI will always use Fusion Bolt or Fusion Flare turn 1, so I completely ignore that and I just set up 1 Nasty Plot on the Zekrom, receive massive damage from a Fusion Bolt crit. I'm surprised I even survived the crit. I mean, yeah, my defense is high, but still. Anyway, what I'm supposed to do is use a Substitute to block the Fusion Bolt, and then usually on turn 2 he likes to use Light Screen or something. Although Light Screen for this thing is actually going to be a problem because I'm mainly a special attacker. On the next turn though, I just decide to use Nasty Plot again. Fusion Bolt only does less than half, and I'm able to fully set up while remaining in red health, but sadly because of the Light Screen being up from the Zekrom, I end up getting a reset again, because even at +6, Dark Pulse still does not one-shot it. Alright, I do have an interesting strategy for this fight. I'm actually going to do the Resto Chesto strat, so that way I can get my health to full, and I can actually PP stall out his uses of Fusion Bolt, and once Fusion Bolt is gone, he just spams either Dragon Claw, Light Screen, or Slash, so he really cannot do much of anything. With Resto Chesto, the plan is to PP stall out Zekrom's uses of Fusion Bolt, and once all of his Fusion Bolts are gone, his only other moves are Light Screen, Zen Headbutt, and Giga Impact. Zen Headbutt obviously cannot hit me, so he'll either just spam Light Screen or just use Giga Impact. So once I PP stall him enough to get rid of his Fusion Bolts, I can set up for free, wait for the Light Screens to go away, and then once the Light Screens are gone, N's Pokemon all go down very easily. So now with N defeated, we've got 1 more battle with Getsus. Just like Protocol, I have Substitute for this fight, and with Substitute for this Getsus fight, I can completely block his Toxics, set up as much as I need to, and then I can one-shot the Cofagrigus with Dark Pulse. I use Dark Pulse on the Bisharp by mistake, which double resists Dark in this game. He breaks my substitute using Stone Edge, so now I just keep using Dark Pulse to 3-shot it. And also, because I have to have substitute and rest, I sadly cannot have Nasty Plot here, so I do need to keep spamming Dark Pulse. The Bouffalant becomes quite an issue as it brings me down to yellow health. Fortunately, once I take it down, the Electros is pretty easy, and then on the Hydreigon, I'm going to need to use rest to try and get my health back. As soon as I wake up, I use Dark Pulse on it. I actually get a lucky flinch, and with that lucky flinch, I can go ahead and defeat it without getting damaged myself from the Hydreigon, and then Seismitoad is defeated and Mandibuzz clocks in with a real time of 2 hours, 1 minute, and 34 seconds with 5 resets, at level 69, nice, with a game time after the credits of 5 hours and 56 minutes. Man, Mandibuzz really did not play that good at all. If you take a look at the leaderboard, we're actually in last place, which I'm honestly not surprised by. I needed to do so much training in order to even prepare to deal with Elisa. I mean, once I got access to Air Slash at level 41 in addition with Nasty Plot, the game still ended up being relatively easy from there on out, although N definitely provided quite a few problems because even though we have Nasty Plot, there is only so much Nasty Plot can do when we have base 55 special attack. Like, that is just absolutely horrible. However though, just because we finished the main playthrough does not mean we're done. We're going to be doing a bonus fight today. In Pokemon Black, I'm going to be doing a bonus fight against the Sinnoh champion Cynthia. I'm not going to do the Elite Four Round 2 because I really don't find Round 2s of the Elite Fours kind of interesting. I kind of prefer if I have to do optional bonus fights, it usually be at one trainer. Anyway though, why don't we go to Undella Town and go take on the champion of Sinnoh, Cynthia. The first time I get to Undella Town, I fight Cynthia right away. She's at level 75 with her Spiritomb. I go ahead and use a substitute as she uses a Shadow Ball, which fortunately does not break my substitute. So now the Spiritomb is just going to be spamming Double Team. Fortunately, Dark Pulse is able to hit it, but it's sadly not able to one-shot, mainly because of how bad my special attack is, plus she is a higher level than me. But anyway though, I just keep missing Dark Pulses. Eventually I do knock it out, and then next up is her Milotic. I use Dark Pulse, it only does half, and then she knocks me out with Blizzard. Yeah, I kind of figured this would not go well. On the next attempt, I do end up going back to Mistralton City, going to the move relearner and re-getting Air Slash back. So now, at least I'm going to have some slightly better damage. Although technically Dark Pulse does do more damage than Air Slash, which is kind of annoying. But funnily enough, when I get to the Milotic, even though Dark Pulse only does half, guess what happened? She ends up using Dragon Tail instead of actually attacking. So she ends up not breaking my substitute. Then on the Garchomp, it misses its attack, not once, but twice. She missed 2 Stone Edges, and then I defeat the Garchomp. Then Dark Pulse barely doesn't one-shot the Electros, but then next up is the counterpart Braviary. I use Dark Pulse, it lives, and then Braviary knocks itself out. Then on the Lucario, I use Substitute right away, Aurasphere breaks it, so that was just kind of a waste of time, and then Lucario uses Extreme Speed and knocks me out. I really should not have done that. I'm pretty sure Air Slash would have one-shot that thing. And there's no way I can get back to the Lucario, because it missed 2 Stone Edges in a row. However though, there is another item I can get that I forgot about. On the village bridge, in this trash can here, I can actually obtain my own leftovers. So I can use this item for Cynthia. Let's see if this helps. It allows me to be in full health for half of the fight, but then the Garchomp Stone Edge does quite a massive amount of damage, and then the Electros is able to knock me out with Wild Charge. I end up changing my plan though. I decided that, you know what, I'm just gonna go deposit my HM users and then just blackout train on Cynthia until I eventually beat her. It's not like this really matters though in the end. My final time for the leaderboard does not take Cynthia into account. This is just a bonus piece of content for people who stick around. And then eventually I am able to get to her Lucario at level 74, and then I can defeat it with Air Slash and being in yellow health afterwards. So yeah, that was actually quite difficult of a Cynthia fight. But anyway, with that fight gone, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I will see you all in the next one.